Now I'm finally getting back to putting back the Honda 90 engine. In the video Take It Apart, I broke this piece trying to get it out of the engine, so I bought a replacement. So I've got to try and put that in now. But I'm worried that I'm going to damage it putting it in. This is the exhaust one, and I had this head that I'm going to use. It's a Honda 90 head, but it had none of these things in it, so I had to buy a new valve holder for the other side as well, and all these other little components to go with it. The valves themselves are okay. I got these, but I don't seem to be able to use them. So I've got to put this in here now, into the exhaust side, which is here. So it's a very snug fit. I'm just wondering if I should, I know I can tap it in with something, but I don't want to damage it, so I'm just wondering, should I just check and see if I can get it to go in ever so slightly easier by just filing ever so slightly with a little bit of very light sandpaper, to see if I can just get it to go in a little bit faster or easier, shall I say. Right, I've put in the exhaust one. I just foiled it ever so slightly, and then I used a number 10 socket down over it, and I tapped it down very gently, so it's at a seating down in place. Now I have the inlet one in now as well. The first one was the exhaust, and again I tapped it down with that gently, and it's now in place. Right, on the exhaust side there's a washer. I've already put it in there, and there's another one at the other side, which is this one. That's that. So on the inlet side, the next piece to go on is this piece here, and you have to insert that little rubber thing into it, and that goes down over. Down over that. And then there's this little thing with a little lip on it. It's a little washer that goes down over that, and what that does is this spring sits into it. So the lip must be tightened up. Right, then this small spring, this big spring, and I must put the inlet valve up through it. Then this little cap goes over it, and now I've got to compress the spring with a special compressor and put into these two little collets to hold it in place. So I'll get the compressor there now, and I'll put it on. So I've put the spring compressor on there, and I can tighten it down, and inside here then it goes down over the little collet on top. I call it a collet, a kind of a washer, and it pushes the spring down. That's the little washery copper top thing there. So now I've got to put in those two little small little collets. I must put them in there, and then release the spring slowly. Now you can see the two little collets down there. So when I release the spring slowly there now, the top of those things will catch on the little lip on the valve itself. You can see them tightening up there now. They're not as loose looking as they were. I'm about halfway up. So I'll just continue to loosen it now. That's the spring compressor off. And the two little collets have stayed in place. So now I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. So that's the other side now. I think this is the inlet, or is it the exhaust? Yeah, sorry, the exhaust side. And I must put in the two little collets. Now that's the two of them in place, so I'll just release it now again slowly. And they should firm up onto the valve itself. So that's the inlet side done. Now I can put all the rest back into it. So now I'm after putting in the various bits that go onto that there. And there's two caps to go back on. This one needs a rubber. I'll have to see if I have a rubber for that first. This is a Honda C90 crankshaft, and I'm going to attempt to change the bearings. I bought new bearings for it. So I have to take off this sprocket and I have to take off the two bearings. So I'm going to be using these bearing pullers. I'm not sure if I'll use the small one or the bigger one. We'll see how I get on. I must go down to the other shed where I have the vise. So now I'm after putting a bolt on there to protect the threads that's down inside in the crankshaft. I'll put this on over that. And I must tighten up the bolts to tighten in underneath it. So that's tightened up now underneath it there. And I must put on the extension bars. Right, these are the extension bars. And the top bar. Right, I must tighten that down now and keep it centered over the thing. Installing the bar to wind down onto the nut. Right, so I'm after winding down the nut, the long bar there on top of the nut, and it's after loosening it and out it comes. Now I have to take the bearing off next, so I'll have to put it back on over it again. Now I've got the pullers back on there, and hopefully I'll try and get that bearing up. I'll heat it first to loosen it up a bit. Now it's just after breaking the seal on the bearing there, so it's after coming out. So that's what it's like now with the bearing gone off of it. Now I've just got the bearing started ever so slightly by putting a screwdriver in there and hitting it with a hammer to get it to move up ever so slightly, and then I can put the bearing pullers on it, otherwise it would be very difficult to get it off. Right, that's the second bearing now after loosening there. I have to turn this with a 17mm spanner. And that's it. So now I don't have a socket big enough to go over the crankshaft part there, so I don't have one wide enough for that, so I'm using a box spanner to tap it down. So after tapping the first one down there now, now that's the second one down in place, and I must put on this sprocket again. I'm just checking to see if there's any lining up marks on it, which I actually can't see, but I'm just going to have a closer look at it. Right, I haven't found any lining up marks on it anywhere, so I guess it just goes on whatever way it goes on. I must put some lubrication on it to make sure it goes on easily. Right, that's fully down, the other one is fully down, so I must tap that down now gently. I think I can use this socket for part of the way. Right, that's it down in place. I think it's after seating fully down. I don't think I can drive it any further. So that's how to change the bearings on the crankshaft of a Honda C90 and the sprocket as well. Right, this is the 6204, which goes on the sprocket side. I'm just after heating the casing there, so I have to be careful. I must get something to tap it down on one of the sockets. I'm just going to tap it down into place there now with that socket. Right, that's the 6204 bearing down, which is the sprocket bearing. Right, this is a 6004 bearing. I heated up the casings there, so it slipped in nicely. Just have to make sure it's fully down there by tapping it ever so slightly. This, get a smaller sprocket actually. Right, that's it down in place. I got a smaller socket, not a sprocket, I said previously, a smaller socket, just to get it down in place. So now I can start to put the engine back together. I'll be putting in the crankshaft first. Right, so I'm installing the crankshaft. That holds the clutch, so I have it the right way around. That's grand. Now I'm just after putting in the gears there into it and making sure that they're all turning. There's a washer down at the bottom there as well, which is important. This washer here I think goes there, but I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to check on my book. I must take the crankshaft out of that other one there again and put it back into this one. This seems to be the best way to go about installing it. Now I've just installed the kickstarter there on the other side, on the other casing, and I'm not sure if there's washers to go in there. I must double check it. I do have two. Now the next thing to put on here on this side is the gaskets. I have a full gasket set there for a Honda C90. There's lots and lots of stuff in it. Now it's either this one or this one. It might be this one actually. Yeah, that's the one. Right, I'm not going to actually put it on with some gasket material as well. I'm just going to fit the whole thing just to make sure everything is okay. I've put on the kickstarter onto this side here, which is what you have to do. And in the video when I was disassembling, I found washers inside this, which I think are the two washers that should be in there. There's only supposed to be one washer there, but there might be a second one there to stop any play. Let's go with one washer for the moment, put the other one in the box. So I've put on the kickstarter. That section goes down there, the spring goes on over that, and I think this is the way it goes. I already did a dry run on it and it seems to work, so the other spring goes down there and it's sitting inside there. So I think that's the way it goes. Right, I can put this onto this now. I think, yeah, I can. So I'm putting this casing down over this one. And I have to get the mallet just to give it a tap. Something's not working. Right, it went on there pretty handy. Okay. Right. Now I'm just going to put something on the kickstarter there again just to see if it's working. So to do that I must put on the clutch cover casing down over it. So I'll get that down there now and I'll put on a kickstarter on it to make sure to start kickstarting it. Right, so that's that bolt after being tightened in there, which keeps the gears in place. So I can take off the clutch cover now. Now I can put those two casings together by reinstalling the I think it's 9 bolts that go around it there. All around there. Now I'm just putting back in the neutral switch. Goes on there. Like so. Right, there's a little seal missing off of it there, so I'll probably have to put a new one in there. Now I've put a seal on it, so it goes in much snugger now into the hole. Actually difficult to push it down. Right, that's that. Now I'm after putting in the gear change mechanism there, and it goes in underneath the lip there, and I'm after putting in all the pins. There are 5 of them, and some of them are only just very small little ones, those two, and this one here has a little small lip on it. And it's for this here. There's a hole on it there that goes over that. And I must put a bolt down there, a 6mm bolt. And I'm putting a spring washer on it. There was only a screw on it, like so. It was that one actually, I had to cut it to get it off, so I'm putting on a hexagon head bolt with a spring washer on it. So now I'm putting on this piece here. The spring goes in like that, and I must just pull it up and get it over that lip there, but I need two hands to do it. And this is the nut that goes on there, like so. And I'll tighten that down now and fix the spring onto that there, and this round section then sits in there into those grooves, so I'd sit it in there. Right, that's it down in place, and the gears are working. Perfect. I'm just installing the oil drain plug there. I put a fibre washer on it there, you can see it in red. 17mm spanner. Okay. What I'm doing at the moment is I'm trying to put in this wheel here. It's very stiff inside, and it doesn't turn of its own accord. It does turn when you put in the chain and put it onto the crankshaft and turn it. It will turn it, but it's very, very tight, so I'm not sure whether it should be that tight. I've tried cleaning it. I'll do another bit just to be on the safe side. I don't like the idea that it's very, very tight. Right, I'm putting in the oil pump sprocket. It's turning a little bit better now than it was. Still a little bit tight, but I won't worry too much about that. It should be okay. Right, the next thing to do is to put the oil pump itself in at the other side. Right, I'm putting on the oil pump next. This is the gasket. I had to adjust it ever so slightly because it wasn't 100% lining up with the holes. And this is the next piece that goes in. And this piece. And with this piece there's a flat area there. This is the piece that goes down into it, and it has a flat area on one end. So that's it. I just have to line it up with the... I might have to take it off again now just to line this up so that it goes down properly. And then this is the cover that goes on it. But I have to put a gasket on that as well. It's one of these two gaskets. These are the screws for holding it in place. Right, those two gaskets that came with the gasket set, they seem to be of no use to me. They don't fit it at all. So I had the old gasket that was on it when I took it apart. So I have gasket paper there, and I'm going to make a new gasket for it. I'm after putting on an M6x20 with a spring washer on it there, and the other bolt is the standard bolt that was on it. So now I'm putting on the top cover with the gasket that I just made. And two of those are these M5s. I think they're M5x10s. Oh. And M6. I'd have to get longer M6s for that. Yeah, probably M6 by 25 or M6 by 30. Now that's the oil pump complete, two M5 by 10s, M6 by 25s, and the standard bolt that goes on it. I must just turn it over now and try and turn it to see that it's turning. Now I'm installing the oil strainer. Goes in there. I'm just after putting on that little spline piece there. It goes down over that there, and then this kind of a copper fella goes down there as well. This is part of the clutch, and then I must put on the main drive wheel. It sits down like so, and it's held in place with a circlip. This is the circlip. That's the circlip in place, and this is the clutch to put on there. Now that's the clutch down in place. Right, to hold the clutch in place you need this special washer that goes in there. And in a Honda 50 and a Honda 70 there's actually a special spring washer, but I've looked at the book and there's none called for in a Honda 90. And there wasn't one in it when I took it apart, so I'm just tightening down that there by hand. And I must get this a special spanner that you attach to your socket wrench. So now I'm after tightening it down there, and you have to turn up the little lips of the washer, the special washer, and get one of them hopefully into a groove on the which I think I have done there on that one. Stop it from coming apart. So the oil pump goes in here. Right, I'm putting on this cover here now next on the clutch, and that's the gasket. Better put the gasket with it. Right, I'm putting on this cover on top of the clutch with a new gasket on it. Just tap it down in place, and there are countersunk screws that go on this. I wanted to get Phillips heads ones, but it was these hexagon head thingies that are in them, but sure, it doesn't matter. Right, that's the two of them down in place. The next piece to go on now is a bearing, 6000 bearing. It goes down there, and then this piece here goes on, sits down into it, and there's a spring inside in that there. So that's that. The next piece to go on is this one. Line it up like that. That's correct. And then this is the next one that goes on. There should be a spring underneath it. that goes on there. Right, that's the finish of that. I can put away that box. Right, the next piece to go on is this piece here that goes into the clutch cover, and this little piece there goes into this hole at the side, and at the other side it's held in place with this nut and washer. That's the nut and washer there holding it in place. I'm after putting in the oil dipstick as well. Right, this is the gasket in place for the clutch cover, and the seal there is 12/26/7. Right, I'm putting in the screws holding the clutch cover in place. I'm not putting any mastic on this at the moment, just in case I need to take it off. So I'm just cutting these bolts to the right size, they're too long. Now that's the clutch cover in place with the 9 screws. I'll be turning it over now. Right, the oil seal for here is 20/34/7. So I've got to get that on there now. I must put a bit of lubrication on it just to get it on easier. Now I'm putting the sprocket back on. That's that. Right, I must just tighten up those 2 bolts. Now I've made a mistake, but luckily I don't have to take any of the casings apart. I have to take this out because this is the timing chain adjuster. So that has to go in before this. As you can see, I can't get it in. It won't go down underneath it there. So maybe I need only to take it out a little bit. We'll try that now anyway. Right, I managed to get it out. So I must now put this piece in here, like so. I'm just wondering, I'm assuming that keeps the chain in place. I'm actually going to put this wheel back in, and I'm just going to put in the chain just to see what's going on there with those things, how it works. So I've got it in there, and there's a spring and a unit goes up through this here, and a nut holds it in place. And you can adjust this up and down to tighten the tension on the chain. So that's what that is. Right, there's I must install these 3 little fellas now that hold it in place. One goes there, one goes there, and the other one, there's a little piece, there's a slot on that one down there, so that one goes there. And there's a little, I've only got one. I must yeah, I'm going to have to get some bolts to put in there now, because I had to cut the bolts and stuff like that to get them in, to get them out when I was undoing it. So I'm going to try and get three bolts there now. I'll actually probably put in hexagon nut ones. I should have them in stainless steel so that they won't rust. Now I've put that in, and it actually still moves around, and it's actually this unit here with the spring in it that actually tensions it. So you can tighten these down in such a way that it actually tightens it to stop it from moving. So I'm now going to put in the various pieces. This is the first piece that goes in there, and the spring goes in there, and then this bolt, if I could hold on to that damn thing. Right, and it's a 14mm spanner to tighten it up. Okay, so basically that's what it does. It keeps it in position up against the chain when the chain is going through, because there's another bigger wheel here, so it keeps everything lined up. Right, that's that bit done. I know this piece goes here, I think. Yeah, it goes there, but I won't actually put it on a while until I'm putting on the gasket. It just sits there like that, and I think it's a gasket keeps it in place. Now I'm just after putting the piston on there. I have the piston rings installed, the new ones that came, and I've put the pin through. I must put in the circlips now, if I could get it to stay up. These are the two circlips here, and I have to be very careful that I don't drop them into the engine. That's one of the circlips in place. Now that's the second circlip in place, so I can take out the tissue that I had there to stop them from falling into the engine. Right, the next thing to do is to put on this head. I have the gasket already put on there. Now there's a rubber seal that goes in here, and I've put some mastic sealant on it, gasket maker sealant, just to hold it in place so that it doesn't be falling out. Now, right, I must get the piston on now next. Now that's the bottom head installed. There's some sort of a washer on that there as well. Now I have to check and see if there are any other washers to go in, or rubber seal, should I say. There's a rubber seal here, and there's two other seals there. I don't know what they're for. They come out of the gaskets, but maybe they aren't required on a Honda C90. Now I'm putting in the chain here, the timing chain, which goes on over that. Right, the next thing to put in is this wheel. Special bolt goes through here. Right, the next thing to put on now is the head. This gasket goes in here, and I'm going to put a small bit of mastic on it, Dirko, to hold it in place. Now I'm just installing that rubber seal there with a bit of sealant on it just to hold it in place so that it doesn't keep falling out. There's also a gasket on this head here, which if I put it on here it won't stay there. So I'm going to put a very small little bit of sealant on it just to hold it in place on the head. That should stop it from falling out. Now I'm just after installing 13 by 22 by 5 on the points section there, the one that was on it. There was no little spring in the back of it. There's a spring in the back of those seals, so I've just changed that there. Now this sprocket has to be put on now because it won't go through the hole that's on the side of that there, so it has to be installed now. Now I must put on the gasket here, like so. This top section goes on, and I'll just put the bolts on it for the time being. I can change them around again later. Now I'm after tightening that there, which has allowed this sprocket to come right in the hole, and the O on that sprocket must be in line with this here. Now I'm not sure if I have to drop it down one at the moment, but I think I have it pretty right, but I have to maybe just drop it one. I'll see if I can drop it. Now I've got the 0 lined up with the mark there, so I'm putting in this now. This is the kind of camshaft. And I must put 2 bolts onto that now. Next thing to put on is a gasket here. I was putting on the spark advancer, but this has to go on first. That's the way it goes. Pointed end over there. Like so. Now there are 3 screws holding it in place with a washer. That one isn't going down that well. Right, that's that. Spark advancer next. Like so. Points. One here. Line up those marks there. And there are 2 screws with washers holding it in place. Right, these are the 2 screws that hold it in place. Right, there's probably another gasket that goes on now. Yeah, this one. And there's a cover goes over that. I'll set the points gap at a later stage. Right, that's the gasket for there. And this is the top cover, and they're countersunk domed kind of screws. That's the cover in place. I'll set the valve gap at a later stage. I'm just going to put the caps on there at the moment. And I'll tighten them up. I'm after putting this wire up through that lower head there. That's where it was originally, and it was stuck with mud and stuff. Right, I think the next thing I have to do now is to tackle this area here. What I forgot to do before I put on the cover was to put in this bolt here. Right, I can put the cover back on now. Right, the next thing to put on is this gasket that goes on there, and then this cover goes over it. Now that's that side cover on with the 3 screws and the gasket. I must get a plug. Now I can put on the I can put on this. I think it goes like that. Now I'm just installing this extension piece here that goes up to the carburetor. Put a gasket on first. Right, that's that in place. Now I must tackle the dynamo section here next. Right, I'm installing the woodruff key here now that holds the rotor in place. Now I'm just tapping on the rotor there just over the woodruff key, and that holds it in place. Right, I must put on the coils next. Right, the coil is held on with 3 6x25mm bolts with shake-proof washers on them as well. I'm using bolts. They were screw head ones originally. Well, 2 of them were actually hexagon as well, but I have stainless steel ones, so I'm going to use them. Right, that's the 3 of them in place. There's a bolt goes in here now to hold it in place, which in the taking apart the video I bent the bolt, so I'm installing the same size bolt, but it's stainless steel, so it won't rust. So I'll tighten that up there now. I've just attached the wire onto the neutral switch there. You have to press down that little, we'll call it a collet, and then when you let it go it tightens on the wire. So that other piece that I had earlier as well, wherever it's gone, here's this here. That piece goes on there like that, and in actual fact the cover that goes on there holds it in place. Right, I'm just putting on the gasket there. Goes on there for the cover. And that's what I was saying, that this is held in place partly by the gasket, but mostly by the casing itself. Right, so there's a load of bolts to go on there now. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's another one to go in there. That's it. Right, the next cover to go on is this one, and it requires a gasket as well. So the gasket goes on there. Right, that's the gasket for it there. And I think it's and on the cover then there's 3 6x18 yeah, 6x18 panhead bolts, and you must put in little small washers as well, rubber washers to seal it. I've put on the 3 bolts there, but they're not the right ones. They're actually panhead countersunk because they sit properly into the slot on the cover itself. So there's another cover that goes here. I'm not sure that I actually got it when I bought the engine. I must have a look at the picture. I think I have one somewhere, but I have to go looking for it. I actually found them. They're 6x18s panhead countersunk, as you can see, but the screw tops are completely gone on them, so there's no point in putting them on. I'll have to get a couple of them. Now that's basically it for the Honda C90E engine. Completed. Next thing to do now is to put it on the bike and see if we can get it going.